Well, Trudy, I was wondering if we could start off by asking a little bit about what made you go back into this world that you started off with in the first play and head into doing Going Down.
So I had a really good response to the first production, and people would just, people in my life would come and saw it, were always quoting it and talking about it, and just really, the character really resonated, which I didn't expect. So then the opportunity came up at the Butterfly Club, and my producer was like, "Hey, there's this. You should apply, and we should do it again." And then I wanted to make a new show and just sort of revisit the character in a different way in a different place.
So how did you go about doing that? Because quite often with theatre, you don't get that opportunity to go back and do a sequel. You do with film and television, but not very often with theatre. So how did you actually decide to go back and find a new story for the character, so to speak?
Well, she was someone who I had been playing with the idea of making a spin-off sort of web series, blogger type videos from the first show. And then I had sort of ideas forming of what little other bits happening. And then I just actually don't know where the seed, that's right. So I sort of got interested in this idea of sort of people being, publicly shamed or taken down, and there seems to be a formulaic way in which they can come back and almost be stronger than they were before. So I sort of put two and two together, and at the end of the last show, she has this existential crisis and basically reveals herself as not being who she's promoting herself to be. So I took it one step further and thought, if this just completely span out and was a complete scandal, and then now she's written this book that's basically saying, look, I'm owning everything, and then saying, and now I'm back better than ever.
Yeah. Without naming names, was there any real life cases that you kind of based it on? Because we have seen a few people in recent times have to make that comeback after something like this has happened in their life that's taken them down. Was there any cases that you kind of used, or did you just go for your own imagination?
There are a few, I thought of, it wasn't like, oh, this is a case study on this as this character. There were bits and pieces from how that happened, and also I really like watching BoJack Horseman, and I like their humour and the way they play on real issues. And so that they have a few episodes where that thing sort of happens, so I took some of that on board, and there's a few influences. It's just something that's very recurring at the moment, so I think it just all flooded into my brain, and this is how it's come out.
Yeah, of course, another big part of it as well must be, as a performer, you enjoy playing the role. Tell us a little bit about the character and what you enjoy about playing her as well.
So one thing I've discovered that I really enjoy about playing her is her self-assuredness. As a human, you're kind of always questioning yourself, and does these people like me, and do I believe this? And it's nice to take a load off and just be so direct, and everyone sort of knows this type of archetype. They're very, in their power and commanding, and this is the way, this is what you need to do. And I just find that so fun and so freeing to sort of, for an hour in the evening, just go, yes, this is how it is, and fully buy into that.
Yep.
So that's one thing. And just, she's American, and I love working on the accent, and I think that comes with that self-assuredness too. And the things I've created for her brand, the exercises from her book, everything is really fun to play with, and it's nice to do a show where the audience is involved. There's no fourth wall here. The audience is the audience for her book tour in the world of the show. So I really like actually, directly working with their responses.
Yeah. From a writing point of view, and for all the writers listening to the show, did you find extra challenges writing this as a sequel? Because I did an interview recently with a film screenwriter, and he'd had a movie come out, and straight away the company that made the film called him and said, look, we want to do a sequel. And he said sitting down and writing the sequel was the toughest bit of work he's ever done. He had writer's block galore. Do you find those kind of challenges there, even though you kind of knew what you wanted to do with the story, in a sense?
Yeah, I definitely found it difficult, and even because we haven't put the show up yet, it's been sort of 10 days-ish, I'm still like, oh my gosh, people had a great response to the first one. What if there's not enough of this, or there's not enough of that, or what if it's getting rehashed? So there's sort of those anxieties. So you really sort of have to trust yourself and go, okay, this is the story I'm presenting, and hopefully it's not like an Anchorman 2 when everyone's just like, yeah!
Yeah.
But, I mean, the thing with this was, I sort of got approved to the One Act Play Festival at Butterfly Club, and I had 6 weeks to turn it around. So I kind of couldn't have writer's block. I just had to, like, dive in and make myself write, and even if I knew this was terrible or this wasn't going to be in there, like, it was sort of on track, I just had to really push through. And I'm very lucky that Amy, who's advising it, she's also a writer, so she's like, oh, this is jarring, or as an audience member, I'm not getting what's going on here. So we're sort of all putting in and collaborating and getting it to a really solid piece of theatre.
Yeah. Have you written it in such a way so that if someone hasn't seen the first production, they will still get what's going on and going down?
Yes, definitely. So there's little things that if you have seen the first one, maybe there's like a couple of little Easter eggs in there that you'll reconnect with. But I mean, that was in 2018 anyway. So some people's memories might, they might remember the key points, but they won't remember the whole show as a detailed thing. But yeah, it definitely stands on its own, this show.
Yeah, the One Act Play Festival is such an amazing thing to happen, because when I was a young writer starting out, these were so few and far between, and then when they did come about, we always used to find that the more experienced writers used to find it as a way to put something into, so as a young writer you still didn't get that opportunity. How important are things like the One Act Play Festival for writers and performers out there?
I mean, it gives just so many opportunities, and just the fact to have someone say, yeah, we love this concept, we want to put it on, we want to help you make it happen, is just so, it gives you, it supports you. I mean, any career in the arts, you're kind of anxiety-ridden, and you're putting yourself out there, and every time before a show, I kind of go in business mindset, and then I go, I wrote this, people are going to see it, So just little things like that, and especially even Fringe as well, and I did something through La Mama Explorations, and when you're with other people that are going through the same thing, there's just this sense of community. You can network, not in a yucky way, but in a just, expand your sort of web of people that are doing the same thing, and that therefore expands your ideas and the possibilities for the future work. And so I think it's very important for us to have this. So it's not, because it can be quite isolating, like you probably know as a writer. You're sort of sitting at home, everyone else is out doing things, and until you sort of get it in a rehearsal space, it is very isolating. So, having things where it's a bunch of artists together, I think it's just really wonderful. Yeah,
definitely. Now, I get incredibly nervous before I have a show coming up. How are you feeling now about 10 days out from this being performed?
There's definitely still lots to do, but I'm actually quite surprised how, I think because I wrote it, the lines are going in very easily. So that's great, because it is a book tour, so my character, the Trudi, basically talks quite a lot, and like I said, she's very assured, she knows what she's saying. It is a very forgiving play, though, the way we've set it up. If something goes wrong, and because I know the character so well, I can sort of improvise around things and get it back on track.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're doing something where, the play's going on, the audience is just bearing witness, yeah, there's room for that, but it is a little bit more startling.
Yeah. Well, we wish you all the best of luck with the show, and I guess to finish off, is there anything you'd like to say to people out there before they head along to check out Going Down?
Oh, it's a really fun show. You will have a blast. There's just so much in it, and what I found from last time that people enjoyed was most people have someone sort of on the way to this character in their life, and it's nice to just come and have a laugh, but not at your friend or whoever, but at something else that you kind of just get to exercise that thing.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Well, Trudi, thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been an absolute
Thank
pleasure,
you.
and we wish you all the best of luck with the show.
Thank you so much.